Hey, I'm Dr. Ruth Roberts, your pet's ally. I hope you all are well and finally have my handy puck back in action, which is just an interesting thing you learn in the course of traveling. Yeah, so thankfully that provides better internet connection. We're in places where we've just got the satellite service. So, thanks for all the questions you all are writing in. We got a few new products in stock. So one I told you about, the Sensitive Gums brushless toothpaste. And Mona has not had a chance to try it out, but I'm really pleased with the ingredients. It does not have brewer's yeast and all that kind of crud in it. And it does have rice flour, some oat flour, things of that. So again, every product you give your dog, if you know your pet has sensitivities, you do need to check the ingredients. So just check that out. But I've been happy with it so far. Excuse me. And these suckers are, and this is for the small dogs, obviously, pretty firm, so it's going to take some chewing to get that excuse me, to get that sorted out. But they're using calcium bentonite, calcium phosphate dihydrate, and then we've got spearmint, sodium bicarbonate, cinnamon clove, citric acid, alfalfa, and rosemary extract for some preservative. Sorry, I've got a tickle up my throat evidently. So check those out. We'll be adding a few more things to the store here and there as we, excuse me, I'm going to grab some water as we kind of get to them. But if there are products you would like to see in the store, just let us know what they are, either Hannah or I, and we'll see about adding them in. It's really, I finally found a source for a couple of different products, and we're able to add those into the store, and some will be drop shipped, some are going to be, we're going to ship into Amazon. And we do have a few more bottles of calcium citrate, which we played really hard to find. So that will be available. I'm working on a different source that will be a bit more consistent and actually hopefully a little bit less expensive. So having said that, let's head over to the Facebook page and take a look. And Kathy is finally gotten her little baby Daisy taken care of, and her little footy is feeling better. And the awesome thing is that the veterinarian said the rabies antibodies was high and he did not have to vaccinate them. And but she went ahead and slipped him that extra wad of cash anyway, because it never hurts to grease palms in different countries. So, and I hope that Dottie has gotten better, and they look very, very happy to see you, Kathy. So glad you are well and at home. There's Hayo's traveling picture. She's getting the hang of this thing. We're going to try giving her a haircut shortly. Hopefully you caught the Dog Days of Summer sale. We'll be working on that. Some specials throughout the month, and giving you a little more love. And Jamie, I'm so sorry that you lost your baby, but it sounds like it really was time. And I'm glad that we could give you some comments on how to sort through when is it time, when is it not time. And you've done so much for both your babies. So please, please, please always know that you have done your level best, and that they love you for it, and they cherish the time that they had with you. I know that doesn't make it a lot easier losing her, but Molly, know it, you did everything you should for your baby. So pat yourself on the back. Big hugs. Much love from all of us to you through this hard, hard time. Always tough. Now, Sita's asking about Cushing's dogs and kidney-sensitive dogs eating a vegetarian diet. And Sita, I just don't recommend this, because typically what I see 6 months to a year later is elevated liver enzymes. So that's where it gets really tough. I'm not sure why you're wanting to go towards a vegetarian diet. If it's just something that you kind of ethically are shifting to or are already doing yourself. But I think that, just stick with the real proteins, the meat proteins, I should say. After years of being a keto person and a high protein diet, I'm trying to figure out how to go to a more plant-based diet myself. But because your Cushing's guy, Jesse, is, he's already pre-depleted, I would really avoid doing that. Now, having said that, if you want to try and incorporate some plant-based proteins, you could try something like hemp. It is a complete protein, meaning it has all of the amino acids and that are needed, that are essential amino acids. And let's see, I think you had another one. So yes, you can use glycerin, and there's a lot of stuff in a lot of stuff. So May is correct. You can make your own stuff. If you've got this already, try it, see what happens. If your pup, and I'm not sure if this is Jesse or your other pup, but if the nose is dry, generally what that means, and usually it's going to be right over the top of at that junction between the haired region and the non-haired region. It's going to be kind of scratchy and scurfy looking. Generally what that means in terms of Chinese medicine is blood deficiency, blood being a nutritive fluid. And so by adding more blood tonics, so things like beef, carrots, kidney beans, et cetera, and there is a sheet that sort of details out which is which, that's where you can actually help kind of heal that from the inside out. Now, the thing is, too, is that so many of these things are tasty to our guys. And so you have to put this stuff on. And I think using something to soften those crusts is a great idea. But you need to put something on and then go for a walk so they're not going to immediately lick it off. And so the other thing you could do is make up some sort of a skincare product, and that's what we've been doing since we've been traveling. When we're out west, we find that we really need a ton of moisturizer, and so what we've been doing is making a mixture of 1 cup beeswax, 1 cup coconut butter, and 1 cup oil, your choice. So coconut, avocado, etc. And what you would do is melt the beeswax and coconut butter, and I'm typing this out for you as we're talking, except for I can't spell. And then when it's melted, add in the oil, mix it all up. And then what we like to do is pour it into silicone molds. And what that does is create a nice little bar that incidentally fits handily right inside of the tin for mints that we use quite a bit. But that's helpful. That's a great thing to use on your pup's nose as well, because it's a great moisturizer. So see if that doesn't help you a little bit. And I think, let's see, Bettina was asking about what medical conditions qualify for your dog to get a rabies vaccine exemption from your vet. So to me, if my pup had seizure activity, was treated with an anti-seizure medication, so Keppra is the trade name for levetiracetam, and the OCD and all of that, to me, yes, that would absolutely qualify. Cancer, autoimmune disease, chronic skin disease, to me, any type of chronic skin condition. Ultimately, that's going to come down to what your vet believes, the person writing the exemption for you, what your pet believes is qualifying. So the other thing I would do is combine that with a rabies titer. And what that means is that's a blood test, obviously, and that's going to let you and your veterinarian and the state officials, such as it was, know that your pet is indeed protected against rabies virus because the blood work says so. Now, for those of you that are just getting into this, if you go into our files section in this page and go into this vaccine info PDF, this is the rabies compendium, and that will get you some information on how to use titers and things of that nature, and what the states and things of that nature tend to view as okay or not okay. So I hope that helps somewhat. And we've also got that one not to go to the ER vet. So I hope that is helpful. You guys are all, if you meet folks, what I was going to say is that in 2018, the FDA finally published something that said, oh yeah, by the way, Bravecto and NexGard and those long-acting flea pills do indeed seem to be associated with seizure activity. So I know that none of you are using them, but do be cognizant about that issue, and if you've got friends that are starting to have problems, let them know about that. It just is not, it's not cool. So Bettina, you are welcome. Any questions that I can answer for you all before we head out? I know there's a couple more of you watching. Is this a good time for you all too, by the way? It's we've been doing this time for a long time, and that's what's been easier-ish for me, so I hope that's working for you as well. Bettina and I had some really interesting conversations last week on the Ipets Ultimate broadcast, and we had some great questions from Sri, so that will be uploaded shortly, and those of you that are iPet Ultimate members can get those, get access to that recording and the transcript. So if no other questions, until next week. The titer, so Bettina's asking, would we need to prove that it came from the rabies vaccine? As far as, do you mean that the disease came from the rabies vaccine or titer? And that's a big question. You don't have to prove that the rabies vaccine caused the disease, if that's what you're asking. It's just that any vaccination. So the theory is this for medical exemption. It's not that the previous vaccines caused a disease, although if your pet has had a severe reaction, then that is one reason to get an exemption from the vaccine. But the big thing is that in diseases where the immune system is responding improperly, that is where you would want to get these exemptions, right? The seizure activity, likely, and you and I both kind of are cognizant of this, the seizure activity may well have been caused by the vaccine. But because most conventional veterinarians aren't there, as long as we can say this disease has been associated with immune hyperactivity or improper activity, so cancer, autoimmune disease, seizure activity, because if your immune system's responding improperly, that inflames your brain and tends to create more seizure activity, then we can say that's when it's appropriate. Does that make sense, Bettina? Yeah. So, no, God, that's stupid. So Bettina's saying he's no longer on Keppra, so they want to vaccinate. No, you fixed it, damn it, because you did all these other things as far as nutrition and supplements, et cetera, and got your pets, and I think that's Murphy you're speaking of, you got his brain inflammation down and controlled his seizure activity. His ongoing OCD behavior is example enough that his brain is still not quite right. So, no. God. So I would ask for the titer. That is accepted, and then print out the rabies compendium, and 2 years of detox, she says. So print out the rabies compendium, circle the parts that discuss titering, and also there is a part that says if any pet. So the deal with the rabies vaccine is if the animal bites a person, that's when the authorities get involved. So the deal is that if any pet bites an animal or a person, sorry, my brain is still not quite right today. What you would then get is a 10-day at-home quarantine, and at the end of that period of time, then the any dog that has, oh, for God's sake, still no exemption. Any rate, so sorry, brains. So if at any time a dog bites a person, and they have ever had a rabies vaccination, then they are considered up to date, ever. So even if that was 10 years ago. And what that means is that at the end of that 10-day at-home quarantine, the rabies control people can then ask you to revaccinate. Now, you can, yeah. So you can, I'm shaking my head at Bettina's comments, which you guys can see as well. So you can then say, okay, my dog had this and such disease, can I please have a waiver? So, Bettina, I think you're in a rock and a hard place. And if your veterinarian is the one that is requesting that your pup have a rabies vaccination because he needs a muzzle for a nail trim, that is absurd in its own right. But perhaps you can find a groomer that can help you with that, that's willing to work with you with a muzzle. I'm so sorry. It's just so ludicrous. Because if your pup has had, they know that your dog and they know that he needs a muzzle for a nail trim. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden because he bites them, he has to he's rabid. So I'm so sorry. And I don't know what to say. I think your neurologist is a good one, but ultimately it comes down to what your veterinarian is willing to put up with. So what you may need to do is actually find a local groomer or somebody that can help you trim his nails with the muzzle on, that isn't going to get freaked out about needing a rabies vaccine. If your local vet, I think you really like, but I'm not sure why they're so obstinate on this position. I'm so sorry. So I hope that helps, Bettina. Yeah, he's never bitten anybody because you take care and make sure that he doesn't have the opportunity to do that. So Leona is asking about Revolution for flea and tick and heartworm. And Leona, I'm not sure where you live. If you're in the southeast, I can tell you that when it came out, it sounded really great, and one of my own dogs developed heartworms while on it. So if you are in a highly endemic area for heartworm, I would not use it. Now, what I typically recommend for both dogs and cats is HeartGuard, and for heartworm prevention, and then using a Seresto collar if you really need that. The other deal with Revolution is it just was not working for flea and tick control. Now, having said that, you can also, if you're trying to go a little more natural, you can also use things like essential oil sprays and Wondercide, and there's all sorts of things out there, and then the shoe tags, which are those electromagnetic tags. So I hope that's helpful. And then Leona's also asking about how much kelp in place of iodized salt in the crock-pot recipe, and you would want to add about a 1/4 teaspoon of kelp per batch of food, and that will get you to the needed amount of iodine. So Bettina, I'm not sure how to help you out from between that rock and a hard place, but if it's really coming down to the fact that They need to put a muzzle on for a nail trim, and that's why they want Murphy to be updated on his rabies vaccine, even with a protective titer. I think, just get the nail trim done somewhere else. We can, you can ask your neurologist, and you can also ask Dr. Lisa to write you a waiver for vaccines, because you've been seeing her for quite some time. So I hope that helps. It's just ridiculous. So I think that's it. Any other questions I can answer for you all today? And if not, I will see you next week. Same place, same bat time. And you're in Chicago, Leona. So, yeah, I don't know. If you're in that area, I think heartworms is an issue. I'm not sure how much ticks are an issue for you. And the other thing is fleas, I know, can be a problem because you have pretty beastly summers with high humidity. So see how, just kind of see. If your neighbors are not having any difficulty with fleas and ticks to speak of, then that's when you're much more likely to get away with something like Wondercide or an essential oil spray. And what you would do is when you go outside or take a walk, spray the underbelly, spray the lower parts of the legs, the insides of the legs, and that will help repel stuff off. So I hope that makes sense. So until next week, I will see you. Take good care.